So the question is a mystical experience an awakening? I will start here by something that you can find on YouTube. It's a very simple explanation of what we could call a mystical experience. And this, I've talked about it before. It's Darren Brown, the mentalist, who can take someone to have a religious experience within about 15 minutes, basically tricking them into, with certain touches and looks and triggers and sensations, within about 15 minutes, get them to have a religious experience. They found God, or that's what it feels like to them, right? So it's very clear. A religious experience is just that. It's almost like, in hypnosis, a trance state. It creates a trance state that jumps you out of the state you're normally in to be like, oh, wow, this feels amazing. Very much like when we go to a new place for the first time, see a beautiful sunrise, have an experience that we weren't ready for, had a very close car crash, and we stop and that trance breaking, the trance we live every day that breaks us for that split second out, we're like, wow. Mystical experience. We could say is slightly deeper than a religious experience. It's the same thing. But we could say it's slightly more, because within a mystical experience, we can say, yes, but we have visions. An ayahuasca sitting ceremony, whatever you want to call it. Mushrooms, LSD, all these things can lead you to have mystical experiences. Mystical meaning you see things, you have visions, you have experiences that you can't explain. Obviously, the more people that do these things, the more we see it, the more it's researched, the more we can see. So, for example, with ayahuasca and things like this, can be amazing things to help people heal. They will shut down your ego for a while and stimulate you with enough DMT in the brain from the pineal to allow you to see yourself, interpreted in almost like a dream state fashion, because you're so deep. Which in turn can allow you to see what it is you need to get to a point zero, to heal, to recover, to figure out what you need to do in life. And when you talk to people who've had these ceremonies, it's, I've had a life-changing experience. I now know what I need to do with my life. I now feel so much better. I've shedded so many layers of... It's all about healing, getting back to zero, getting back to that place of feeling like home. Many people experience the same thing through breathwork. You do a 2-3 hour breathwork session, maybe because you're practicing, maybe on a retreat, and you have this profound experience. The same. You can have it through pranic energy healing sessions. There are many different brands that do it. The most famous one that's going around today, sort of slightly newer in name, not new in nature, newer in name, we could say it's like Kundalini activation, but there are many. They've been going for many, many years. The way they work, slightly different, they're all unique, they're all special. But these, using the pranic healing and perhaps using some music to stimulate some endorphins, some adrenaline, make it a little bit more addictive for you, can lead to these points that, again, that you can release, you can heal, get back to zero. If in this process of getting back to zero, we have these visions, we see these things like these almost dreams, but because we're awake and we're not used to having dreams when we're awake or visions when we're awake, that we don't control and they show us things, we think these are mystical experiences. And they are mystical experiences. So how does that differ from a Kundalini awakening? Well, first of all, these experiences are temporary. You might have it on a retreat and you're at the retreat, but when you go home, you're back to your normal life and it's very easy to forget, oh yes, once upon a time I remember this happened, and amazing, but brief. When it comes to a Kundalini awakening, again, we're not talking about Shakti rising. We're not talking about energy surging through the body, being it Prana, Shakti, the sexual energy which bursts out in energy orgasms. Again, great, amazing things. Seriously, go try them. But when Shakti has risen, you reach not just this amazing state, but you reach a state of bliss. Not just total calm, not just feeling at home, beyond that, bliss. When you feel connected to absolutely everything. This can happen in a mystical experience for a brief second. But when we can get to that state of bliss, when we can raise that energy up, and we go further, we go higher, as it were, and we reach these much higher states, we start to become aware of something that is more than just cosmic energy, Shakti, which as we know isn't prana, which we know isn't the essential energy of the energy orgasm. There's something, you can't really put it into words. If you can put it into words, you're not describing it correctly. This is why we use the terms grace, Shiva, consciousness. And we connect to this. And we don't just connect to this. We align with it. We embody it. The descent of grace. Shiva comes down. At the base of the spine in the root chakra. Everyone has heard of Kundalini is like a coiled snake. But if we look at it technically, it is a coil, not a snake, a coil 3 times around the linga of Shiva. Therefore, we must bring Shiva down to connect it to that linga. When we say linga, we're talking about anything that basically looks like a pestle and mortar, a pillar. The Jed pillar of Egypt, which if you look at the Jed pillar just happens to have, it's like 4 plates that create 3 rings around it. That's interesting. And so when we have the descent of grace, when we have this bringing down of consciousness and it connects down. So again, many people argue, does Kundalini rise? Does Kundalini come down? Is it bottom up, top down? Energy flows. I mean, energy is energy. It's like prana. It can flow up my arm, down my arm. Shakti, I can feel it. Once it's risen, I can bring it down. I can fool myself and say, no, Shakti's in my head and it's coming down. But it's actually just prana, really. We've got the microcosmic orbit where we can flow it. What we bring down, if that is energy, don't get me wrong, we can bring energy down. But if it is what we feel that we're bringing down is energy, that's Shakti, that's not Shiva, that's not divine grace, that is not consciousness. But when we bring that down, Shiva, and we connect it in with this bliss state, it's not about having self-realizations and understanding who we are and bringing ourselves back to zero, that mystical experience, that religious experience. It brings down the knowledge, the consciousness of the universe, the universal consciousness. Now, I can say this and I can explain this, but until you actually experience this, you're not going to understand. When that happens, if you have done all the work you need to do, if you have no fear, if you have no egoic ideologies, external programming left. I'm not talking ego. We have ego. Ego is a good thing. It protects us. It filters things. But the program that's installed into the subconscious mind from the external. When we've released all those desires and when all of that's happened, we've opened our hearts, we've connected to the oneness. We've understood discernment. All the workings of the chakras that I talked about previously. You can find them on YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel. But when this occurs, what's nice to be able to almost test, as it were, to reassure yourself when you're here, you can ask questions that you do not know the answers to. Not that you think you know the answers to, because then there's always the trick of the ego, but questions you do not know the answer to. And you will get an answer and you will gain the knowledge from Shiva, collective consciousness. Now, the answer might not be immediate. It might take a couple of weeks, a couple of days. It might present itself in many forms. But you will be presented with this answer and you will gain new insight, new knowledge into something you did not know about. And for the person who is thinking, the lottery numbers. If you're that person, you've understood nothing. Because you're working from fear, lack of what you have. You're working from desires, egoic desires, and you're working from egoic ideologies. So is the mystical experience or the religious experience the same as Kundalini awakening? No. Does the mystical experience offer you a faint understanding of what a Kundalini awakening is? Possibly. 5, 10% worse for a brief second? Quite possibly. They're very different things. Similar in nature, but very different things.